Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, the topic which we will be covering is JCASC, or known as Jenkins Configuration As Code. So let's directly jump into the blog post. You can find the blog post URL in the description. So why do we use JCASC? So the shortest answer is that so far we have automated job creation, we have automated test cases execution in form of pipelines. The only thing which you are doing manually is setting up the Jenkins server, adding the nodes manually, adding the credentials manually. So to automate configuration of Jenkins, we use JCASC. And the next question is, what is JCASC? So in short, you can say the entire Jenkins configuration written in form of the code is known as JCASC. And so far, this is what the name suggests, Jenkins Configuration As Code. So without getting any delay, let's directly go to our Jenkins dashboard and see how the options looks on the Jenkins server. Before we go ahead, just make sure you have the Configuration As Code plugin installed on your Jenkins server. Otherwise, you will not be able to see the JCASC option. If you don't know how to install a plugin, you can check out video hovering here or here in the I button. But I have already installed the same. If you want to install, just go to Manage Jenkins, go to Plugins, and in the available plugins, search for Configuration As Code. I have it already installed, so it will be visible on the installed plugins page. You can see it's already installed. Go back to the dashboard. Now to see the Jenkins configuration, you just go to Manage Jenkins. Once you have the plugin installed, you will be able to see this option, Configuration As Code. As you hit on this button, you can see these options to view the configuration. Right here we have the entire Jenkins configuration written in form of code or in YAML format. We will be going through each of these sections soon. Then here's the button if you want to download the configuration, and here is a button if you want to reload the configuration. Like let's say you have done some manual changes in this YAML file. Now another option which we have is to apply the new configuration file. So you can either pass a GitHub or any public URL here, or you can write the YAML file on the same machine where you have your Jenkins server running and pass the path of that file. Both will work. So I have mentioned all these navigation options in the blog post. Usually I do the manual apply if I trying to debug some changes with the JCASC file or with the YAML file. This is pretty much you can do on an existing running Jenkins server. You can view the configuration, download the same, apply changes, and do these things. How to write configuration as code? I mean, what is the syntax and all those things? Let's directly go there. Here I have this option, how to write JCASC, and here I have pointed almost all the scenarios or short examples as well. So again, it's written in form of YAML, so we have to pass everything which is correctly written in YAML syntax. Here is an example of setting the role-based strategy. Now, before we move ahead, I just want to make sure that JCASC is kind of an step which comes once you have the pre-knowledge of Jenkins. You can check out my entire course, again hovering here or here in the I button. We will be adding agents, we will be adding credentials, we will be adding authorization strategy, we will be adding the global variables. So you should have some prior knowledge of all these things before we go for the configuration. So this is a short example how you can add the authorization strategy. You can define the names and in form of entries, and you can then define the permissions for the same. Then this is how you can add the global node properties. This is how you add agents via JCASC. Now again, these are just the syntax. We will be applying all these changes in the same video, so stay tuned for that. So again, for the user management, either we can create local users. So this is an example here. I'm creating a test user. This is the password for the same. This is the name, and this is the email address for the user. Similarly, this is another user which I'm creating. Then if you are using LDAP, or if you want to use LDAP, some organization use the LDAP configuration for the login. You can use these configuration. Just replace this thing with your LDAP server URL. Similarly, if you want to use the SSO or SAML method, again put the SAML configuration. Pass your key store password and your key store directory with the file and your descriptor URL for the SAML, and add the SSO configuration in the YAML file. Again, we will be creating simple users, the locally one, but if your organization is asking these things, then you can follow them. These are just the example. Then again, this is how you can update the update center. Update center is something from where you download all the plugins and everything. This is how you add credentials in the JCASC. This is a credential I'm adding, and the username is root, the password is test, and again this is the ID for the same. Then script approval again is a concept where we have to approve some Groovy code before executing them directly into pipeline. What I mean by that is, for some security purpose, Jenkins doesn't allow directly execution of Groovy code, so we have to approve them first. So you can add those approvals during the Jenkins configuration via JCASC. And again, this is how you can add the shared library. This is how you can add the seed job. So again, seed job is something that can create another jobs for you. And this is an entire JCASC ready for us. So I have combined all those scenarios. So this is how it starts. You have to write the Jenkins block in the YAML. That basically means that, okay, whatever is written below this will act as a configuration. And this is the system message. So once the Jenkins is configured, this is the message that will be displayed. Then again, I am adding the authorization strategy that Vipin should have all the admin access. Then here I am defining global variables. I am asking it to declare a variable named as product version, and this will be the value for the same. Here I am adding a test node. Again, test.agent.com is not a proper machine. I am just adding it as example. Then in the security realm, here I am using the local database, and I am creating user test with this password, with this email address. Similarly, creating another user with Vipin. Again, defining the update center. Then we have unclassified section. Then we have the security. Again, I have added the required scripted approvals. Then I have defined the global library configuration. Again, the shared library configuration. Then in the tool section, you can define all the configuration of the plugins. Let's say I'm using the Git tool for the Git cloning steps and all those things. So I'm defining that. Then in the job section, you can define any seed job which you want Jenkins to be executed once it's done the configuration. Again, the same file is written on this repository. Let me open it for you guys. Here I have this jcasc.yaml file, and all those same configurations are written here as well. So when the Jenkins server start, it already look for all the plugins inside the directory, Jenkins home directory, and then it look for the plugins directory inside that. If it has any existing HPI file present there, it will load those plugins for us first, and then it will start the Jenkins. So if we have the JCASC configuration plugins set up there, it will look for this variable named as casc_jenkins_config. And if the configuration file provided in this variable is correct, then it will set up our Jenkins according to that file. Now there can be two possible values for this variable. One is that you can define a file on the existing machine. Let's say I create a file on my machine and define the path of that, or you can define a URL as well. So during installation process, Jenkins will download this URL and then set up Jenkins according to this file. Now again, this file can be named anything. It doesn't have to be jcasc.yaml. It can be anything. Now we know how to write JCASC, right? Now the question comes is, okay, I know how to write JCASC. How can I create a fresh Jenkins with this JCASC file? So let's dive into that part. Here are the steps for the same. So setting up a new Jenkins server with JCASC. To do the same, we will be using this plugin installation manager tool. So this tool basically can help you downloading all the plugins using CLI in a specific directory. You can check out its documentation for more knowledge. For this video, you can say just we will be going to the release and downloading the latest WAR file of this plugin. And again, I have mentioned all the scripts here. So again, downloading the jar file for plugin installation manager. The latest version is 2.12.17 as per I am creating this video, but it might be different when you are like trying these things. So let me remove everything so far I have done. Like let me, you can say, decommission this Jenkins. Here it is running all these steps. Let me stop the Jenkins server. And again, here is the Jenkins home directory located. Let me remove it. rm-rf.jenkins. Now you see I do not have any Jenkins server running. And let me create a new directory. So again, this is something I'm doing for the test purpose. Let me change the directory. Here I have nothing in this directory. You can see there is nothing in this directory, and there is no Jenkins server up and running on this machine. So now let's directly start these steps I have mentioned. So this is a command to download the jar file. Let me do it. Now this is again a command to download the latest Jenkins version. The next thing is starting the Jenkins server. First we are setting up this Jenkins home directory, because now here's the question, that how can I install the plugins if I don't have the Jenkins server set up? I mean, that's a good question, right? Because so far we have learned that to install a plugin, we need to have a Jenkins server running. But if we are using the configuration via JCASC, we have to download these plugins before starting the Jenkins server, so that it can pick that JCASC plugin is installed, and then it will look for the variable named as CASC configuration. Now let's start the Jenkins server, but let me set up the Jenkins home directory first, because we are downloading the plugins. So let's do that. Now let me hit the next command. So here basically we are exporting the variable. So I am using this YAML file. Let me open it. Again, it's the same file which I have explained in the blog post. And now let's hit this command. So what this command will basically do, this is the tricky part. It is using the plugin manager jar file, and we are defining again that which will be the Jenkins war file using to start the Jenkins server. Then here we are defining the plugin download directory. Now this is the main part. So we have exported Jenkins home to be .jenkins, like create a folder .jenkins and use that as Jenkins home, which basically means that do everything inside this folder. Now inside this folder, create another directory named as plugins. So this is the default location where Jenkins will look for the installed plugins. And now these are the plugins which I want to install, which I'm defining, like I want configuration as code, of course, otherwise it won't pick the configuration file. The job DSL, of course, I want to use the seed job. I'm adding credentials, so I will be needing credential. I need the Git plugin. I'm using the role strategy plugin. I'm using the GitHub library to set up the library. Of course, I'm using the workflow job. Then I'm using the SSH agent plugins. So let me copy this command and hit it. Now this command might take some time. Just wait until this command says done. Again, if any plugins has any sort of warnings, it will display them right here. Don't need to worry about that. So this command might take 5 to 10 minutes because it's downloading all these plugins. Once it says done, then it means that it has downloaded all these plugins inside the Jenkins home directory and inside that under the plugins directory. So here's a command to verify that. Again, in the blog post, just do this. Now you see it has downloaded all the plugins and its dependencies. So the next step is to start our Jenkins server. So far we have the JCASC ready and everything, and we have the environment variable exported, we have the plugins installed. So let me start the Jenkins server, but before that, here is a URL if you want to dig a bit more about how JCASC works. So I have like pasted the command here. Now if we hit this command, you can see that it's using the current Jenkins directory as its home path, and it has started the execution tar file. Now the things to validate here are that it is saying that it has listed all the plugins, which basically means that it has applied all the plugins which we already downloaded using the plugin manager. Now it has prepared all the configuration, started all the plugins, and now see it is showing all these steps which it has been doing via JCASC. Now you can see it's saying that Jenkins is fully up and running. So let's go to our web browser and validate the JCASC is applied or not. So let me hit this URL again, and you see there is a UI which is asking us for the username. So if we haven't had JCASC, it will ask us to create a user and do that admin setup and everything, which we did in the installation video. So in the JCASC, I have set up two users. One is again the test user. Let's try that. Now this user doesn't have any permissions. So as soon as we log in, it says, okay, you do not have any permissions. Let's log it out. And Vipin is the user which has all the admin access. So test_Jenkins, and let's use this login button. So see, it has already logged in. Now you will be asking that, okay, we have configured everything, why I am getting this setup wizard? So the reason behind this is that Jenkins has a set of mandatory plugins which we need to install. If we will be providing all those plugins in that plugin manager command, it will not ask us to like set up all these plugins. So far let me hit this option and install none of the plugins, and you see it's completed. It will not ask us anything else. As I hit the start using button, you see I have everything ready. Like I have this test folder. Again, this is coming from the seed job. You can validate it from here. This is the JCASC and this is the seed job. It has two steps: creating a folder, creating this freestyle job, and creating this pipeline job. Now you can check this folder. It has both the job available. You can build these pipeline directly, and you can check the output as well. So it's the hello world pipeline. It has all the jobs set up for us. If you see, it has these agent also set up for us. Now again, we do not have the correct IP address and everything, so it's failing to launch. If we check the credentials, it has that one credential which we added, test Linux, and we have added that shared library step. You can validate that as well by visiting system. You can see it has these system message. You can check it on the dashboard as well. It has the shared library setup and everything. So this is exactly what JCASC do. It can set up your Jenkins server within a single command, and this is really exciting. And this is your global variable setup and everything. So whatever we write in that JCASC is already configured on this Jenkins server within a single line of command. So that's the magic of Jenkins Configuration As Code, or JCASC. I hope you find this video interesting and helpful. If you do, then feel free to share it with your friends who are trying to learn Jenkins, and hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.